All right, we are back again for another episode of the Ascendry Podcast. And today with me, I have somebody who is a mentor on Ascendry.app. He is also a longtime music producer, audio engineer, Gosteffects. How you doing today, man?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. How's the weather where you're at?
Not bad. It's getting a little chilly. I'm in Brooklyn right now. But nice day out. Sun's shining today, so can't complain.
Do you think that, so you're in Brooklyn right now, it's storming here. The winter storm is hitting bad right now here. I haven't looked at the weather today, but I'm like, I wonder, is it going to make its way up to you?
Yeah, probably if you got it, then 2 or 3 more days and I'll probably be up here, yeah.
Yeah.
But
No,
today
that's
it's looking
crazy.
nice.
We were like, last night it was getting like brisk, right? Like, I mean, like the Midwest, like, it can be all okay-ish, and then like the temperature really drops, and then you see precipitation in the forecast, and you know what's coming.
Mhm.
Like, we had that last night. My wife and I were loading the last of our stuff out of our old apartment, um, cleaning up, doing whatever, turning the keys in, and we got home, and like you could see, I don't know, this is a weird, I don't know, maybe this is a Midwest like kind of stick theory, but it's like when you look up at the moon and there's like a weird fog around it.
But yeah. I know what
Yeah.
you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were like, I was like, okay, it seems like this might be for real then, because if the weather says something, there's like it's sometimes nothing happens, and then sometimes everything happens in the Midwest. So, but yeah, well, dude. So, thanks for being here for this podcast episode, and yeah, if you could just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, where listeners might know you.
Yeah, so I've been making electronic music for I don't know, 25 years at least, probably, and DJing for almost just as long, and started throwing raves when I was 16 years old and stuff. And yeah, I've been producing and DJing and throwing events and doing mixing and mastering and all of the above in studio services and stuff for like the last decade now. Produced a lot of artists, put my own stuff out, mixed a lot of artists. I've been on doing a lot of work on Sound Better, so I have a lot of clients through that, and have like over 800 reviews on there. Done a lot of stuff. Have over 800 credits on Muso right now. So all kinds of stuff, man.
Solid.
Yeah.
Now, Sound Better, is that like what is Sound Better?
Yeah, so it's just a platform, just a market for musical services in general.
Oh, okay.
If any producer just wanted like, oh, I need somebody to play a saxophone or something on this one thing, and they didn't know somebody, they could just go to Sound Better. There's a bunch of professional people play saxophone on there or any instrument, and you can hire them and have them be a session musician, or have people write top lines, or whatever you need really that's involved in the creation of music.
I feel like that's going to be something that is really useful, because I mean, like, like Upwork for, tons of different other services, and not just music. Obviously on Upwork, you can go, do a lot of things, a lot of weird jobs, but I feel like for any freelancer that's in music, that sounds like that would be really useful. How am I not on that website?
Yeah. I kind of joined on there right before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit, and then so I was kind of DJing before that, and then the pandemic hit, and then I kind of like just went full studio mode, obviously, right? Because nobody was DJing in clubs or anything. So
That was the time, like during COVID, it's like, I feel like that was the time that really illustrated how important it is to lock in and get in the studio and work on, like, I don't know. I was doing a lot more DJing up until 2020 than I was like being in the studio and like producing on like music. And then when that all went away, I was like, wait, it was almost like an identity thing. Like I was like, wait,
for sure, yeah.
DJing is not a thing anymore. Did you have that too?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely it was a big thing for me, because before that, my whole identity was throwing events. So I did, I threw raves. I grew up in Oklahoma City, and, like I was saying, I did that since I was like 16. I started throwing parties, and then started to do a weekly event on Wednesdays, and that went for over a decade.
Throwing a
And so
weekly
yeah,
for over a decade, that is, I got into, sorry, we would throw monthlies and bi-weeklies for a little while. I did that out in St. Louis, as well as out in Glendale. And, you know, it didn't last very long. Nowhere near as long as that. I feel
yeah,
like
it's
to throw a
pretty.
successful weekly
Yeah,
to
that's
last a long time, that's
yeah.
difficult.
I mean, even clubs in New York, you know, they last like 5 years or 6 years. You know, the turnover is pretty quick. So yeah, it
Pop-up
means you're
too. There's a lot of pop-up stuff happening just all over now. Like, I feel
yeah.
like almost like a small, people want to get into it, they want to try it out, see if it works, short-term commit.
Oh.
You know, there's a lot of
Yeah,
that.
I mean, the interesting thing about doing a decade too is you see like multiple cycles of dance music, you know, because it's like that's like many generations of club goers, you know. It's like you have a lot of people that go out. We did 18 and up, so it's like, you know, that's like 4 different generations of people that were like college kids, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That, like,
So we
yeah.
kind of started whenever that started, it was 2006, and that was in like a dance rock kind of era, and like, you know, the Killers were popular and stuff like that. So it was like dance music, but it was kind of rock based, and then it went into like electro and Justice and stuff like that, and then BLAQOUT, and then 2001 was like Skrillex, and you know, big room. So it transformed over that decade. But yeah, to your point, it's like I started doing that or stopped doing that around like 2018 or something, and then I was DJing in New York, had residencies here, and then the pandemic hit, and then so it's like yeah, that whole era of my life just kind of stopped immediately, you know. And then I was lucky enough to start doing sound better before that, and then I just kind of like went full studio mode. So
So you already
I've
had
just
that
been
seed planted then.
yeah.
That's good. That's good for you. Yeah.
Luckily, it worked out that way, you know, because I mean, who knows? It's like crazy
That
time.
was such a crazy, like, you know, I mean, for us, it was music, everything got leveled there. But you think like the entire world kind of had to do the same thing for a long time. And it's kind of interesting to see how it's evolved. I feel like now you have so many more stay at home, like, producers that work on things and do things. They sell sample packs, they make Ableton racks. That market has just exploded, you
Yeah,
know,
for sure.
because there's so many more people just figuring out they can do it at home.
Yeah, and better outlets. It's like you have Splice, you have ways to monetize that. Like I actually, whenever I was like 18 or whatever, I was making sample CDs at that point, selling them on eBay. You know, it was like pre-Splice and all that stuff. So I was doing that as a kid. I'd send those like all over the world at that point, just selling like CDs of sampled stuff from drum machines I had, and you know, making beats on stuff like that.
Yeah. So like,
But yeah, it's kind of funny. It's totally different now.
yeah, I feel like it's always something that like hits my students weird whenever they're getting into production right now and I'm explaining to them what it was like before Splice, because I would go order sample packs and they would be shipped to me in the format of CDs.
Yeah, actually, my in my sample folder, it still says sample CDs. You know what I mean? Like,
It still
it's
says
not a
that.
sample packs or anything. It's sample CDs because that's how that folder started. Like, however long ago. You know, it's pretty funny.
So cool. That's cool. I remember
Digital artifact.
some of the first times I actually got like, so I would actually mail CDs to promoters, and like
Yeah,
eventually that became like
same.
flash drives, which was that was not a smart, like, from a business standpoint, that was not smart. I was just mailing flash drives to promoters. But now it's like, now it's email or like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, actually, kind of the way I started DJing outside of my local area was I would just burn like 100 mix CDs and just go to raves, and like as people were exiting, I just give them to everybody. So you know, it started playing like I started in Oklahoma City. That's where I was at the time, but I played like you know St. Louis and Kansas City and stuff like that in the area, um,
So
Springfield, Missouri, and
you
stuff
were
like that.
giving uh yeah, you're giving the physical CDs out. That's like, it reminds me of like Warped Tour, when the bands that weren't playing but they wanted to hit that market,
But yeah,
they would work their way from the front of the line all the way to the back, right? Like shoe boxes with just CDs in it.
oh
That
yeah,
was such
I
a
mean
goated strategy.
yeah. At that point, I was very aggressive marketer at that point, I guess, of throwing parties. So it's like I came up doing raves and passing out flyers, and then I was that same type of way whenever I started DJing, about promoting myself as a DJ. But yeah, that's all changed. You don't really need to do that anymore because now you have social media, so it's different. You don't really have to like physically go hand things to people. But that was in that moment, that was a great way to interact with people. It's like you kind of can't even do that now because people don't want a physical medium. Like at that point, whenever I was handing out CDs, people would put them in their car on the way home from the party. They'd listen to it, and then and I still get messages sometimes from people on like Facebook or whatever, like, "Hey man, I had the CD from you like 20 years ago. I lost it, but is there any way you can send me a link or something?" It's like I still get messages like that every once in a while.
Wow, so
It's
that
kind of funny.
lasted then. That's pretty rad.
Yeah.
But okay, so you've DJ'd and played in St. Louis, Kansas City, and what are some in Springfield? You said too, right?
Springfield, yeah. That mainly raves there for Johan, if you know Johan Collins.
Johan is the person who booked me for the first ever like time my name was on a flyer was a Johan show.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And that's how I met Chris, our mutual.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
small
exactly.
world.
I mean, Johan's good about that, about promoting, putting people on and stuff, and
yeah, I mean that's where it all kind of began. It was like when the venues weren't quite so. It's now you look at like rave venues and they're full blown productions, they're full blown clubs. At that point, when I first started getting into it, they were like taboo still. Like they were basements, they were like warehouses, they were like it was like wherever you could whoever you could convince to give you the keys for a night.
For sure.
And sign a waiver of liability.
The first parties we were throwing in Oklahoma, whenever I was doing it, they were in like armories, which was kind of weird because we would, they'd be like National Guard places or stuff like that, and somehow they would let us throw raves there, which is just like insane.
Yeah,
or American
like
Legion halls.
Oh, the Legions, the VFWs and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And then there was a place that was like, there's a few just run down, like just warehouse places, like one that ended up becoming like a rock climbing gym. Just, like I remember like you'd go to the parties at that place and they would just be like leaking everywhere. And, it's just like,
yeah,
the ones where
so like you look at a beam and you're like, oh, that's a lot of rust. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like, yeah.
But yeah, good memories though. But yeah, it's almost,
I feel like the dingier and grungier a venue got at that point, it was almost, I remember thinking that was almost cooler.
Yeah.
Really, it was more dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, you probably had a little bit of this too in Kansas City, but yeah, in Oklahoma, it's like the Bible Belt. It was like in the 90s, it was, they had like the Rave Act going on and all this stuff, like trying to make raves. Yeah. Bust them with the same type of, law enforcement that they did with crack houses at the time and stuff like that. So
the Rave Act is crazy.
Yeah, it had to be underground because it wasn't, it was kind of frowned upon.
Yeah, and it's like it was kind of crazy because with the Rave Act, you take 4 scenarios. You take a show that you take a music event at a venue that's a country show, same time of night, and no problem. You replace the country music with rap or hip hop, no problem. And then you replace it with rock or metal, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they hear, that's when it's over. Like EDM, they would bust it. They would show up in SWAT cars. I remember that.
Yep. Yeah,
that's
it happened a lot of the big events I went to in Texas would get busted too. Texas be like thousands of people at these events, and you'd have choppers flying over and stuff. It was kind of a weird time to be going out.
Choppers flying over.
Yeah, there was one in Houston. I remember that they had I don't remember which type of law enforcement it was, but they had helicopters coming over. It was like a 5,000, 10,000 person party, and they ended up shutting it down. That was in the late 90s at some point.
And when those get shut down, what people don't realize is when something of that capacity gets shut down, it's not pretty. It's not
Yeah.
like a venue of 200 people. Oh, go home. Everyone's like, oh, they're cussing when they walk out the door. No, when it starts to get into the 4 and 5 digits and it gets shut down, that's when things get really chaotic. I played this show up in Detroit, Michigan. Jason Munn's Detroit rave scene, DRS, threw it. It was at the Russell Industrial Center. It was a meltdown, and it got shut down. There's a whole story that I can go into with that one, but it got shut down, and like 4 or 5,000 people, like I'm talking literally all chanting, "Fuck the police! Fuck the
Yeah.
police!" And they're like throwing cans and chairs, and like people got angry, and it started getting really out of control. And I still to this day think that if none of that had just happened, all 5,000 or whatever of those ravers could have had a just dandy time, and
Yeah.
it would have been fine.
Yeah, I
Like,
was in one in Austin in the late 90s that got it didn't get shut down, but like it was like way out in the middle of nowhere, like way out in some field. And you had to take a shuttle bus just to get out there. Like everybody had to park downtown and take buses like way out to this place. And then something happened with the buses and there was like no buses back. So there was just like literally like at 6 a.m. there was like literally thousands of people like trying to walk to the interstate to like, there was like people didn't even have cell phones at that point. You know what I mean? It's just
yeah,
to
so
try to
that
like
was,
hail a cab. It was just insane.
that sounds
Complete
actually
insanity.
crazy. Well, I
Yeah.
bet you probably had people calling like their friends and family members being like, "Hey, I need you to go get these taxi people and send them out here," right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. How would you even? That's
Yeah. It was a complete mess. It
that
was a
would
complete
make
mess.
my generation of, and like the one after, that would make our all of our heads explode if that happened to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Luckily, you have Uber and stuff like that. Now you can always get out of a situation if you need to. But yeah, used to be a little bit more treacherous.
well, it's like those people at Woodstock, right? I mean, that was, it's my understanding Woodstock was a shit show leaving.
But yeah.
For like days, people couldn't leave.
Yeah.
And like you had rural towns that were completely gridlocked for hours and hours and hours. Like, and of course, you're looking at like running out of gas. You're like, obviously people need food. And when you have like 100,000 people, what is it? Like Woodstock, was it like 100K? I
Probably.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But, and then all these restaurants and everything, they only have so much food, right? I can almost imagine even like the infrastructure of the nearby towns probably got worn down.
Yeah.
But anyway, so where did this all like start for you, man? Like, because you've told me you've thrown shows, you produced, you DJ'd, you've got a long history of it. Like, what was that moment like where you decided that you wanted to like jump into doing music? Like, can you remember like the first moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, so if you go back really far, my grandmother played organ at church. So my grandparents are from like a small town in Nebraska of like 200 people. So we'd go to this church and my grandma would play organ there and she had an organ at the house. So I was kind of around that from a young age. And then my parents got me a guitar whenever I was like 6, which I kind of played, not really. But then I got back into the guitar in like 4th or 5th grade, And then that's kind of whenever grunge was happening. And then got into that. And then my family took a trip to Italy. And before that trip, I bought like Nine Inch Nails, A Downward Spiral, and Nirvana Unplugged. And then that's whenever I got really obsessed with like sound design and like, wanting to know how they made, sounds like that on the Downward Spiral and stuff. So I got really interested in that. And then I was like too young to legally work. So I got a job illegally at a pizza place getting paid $3 an hour and worked for like 2 years or something and saved up money and bought a Kurzweil keyboard. And then that's kind of where that started really for me. So it's kind of been like a pursuit of just trying to understand how things are done.
And it's honestly, if you have somebody like Trent Reznor or Nine Inch Nails as a North Star for wanting to go and figure out how to make weird sounds like that, it's an interesting journey. I love like some of the crazy intricacies behind how he did like all of what he did. Like,
Yeah.
he was out here breaking the rules before before like a lot of people were out here
For
breaking the
sure.
rules.
Yeah, very innovative stuff. So yeah, that's kind of where that started as far as like an interest in producing or electronic music in general. And then so that was like whenever I was a teenager. And then my friend's older brother at the time was throwing raves. And then so um I started going to a couple of those events. And then he let me do like I was like promoting those shows and like helping to invest what little money I had in those events actually. And then I started playing at like, you know, one of the small rooms at those parties. This was when I was like 15 or something. And so like doing like a live PA, that's what you would have called it at that point.
So you were helping produce and host events at 15?
Yeah. And
That's
then,
sick.
yeah. And then by the time I was 18, I got turntables basically because I was like, man, I'm spending all this time like making this music and like trying to play it live and like other people just like play other people's music. And, that seems way easier. So like maybe I should just do that. So then I kind of got into DJing a little bit and then yeah, still throwing events and stuff.
DJing is one of those
Yeah.
things that is so like I tell even my students all the time where I'm like, you know, if you're producing, you're producing. If you want like maybe an easier way to just be tangible and like be able to like do music, then
Yeah.
like do music, then DJing is a really good way to just jump in.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, you're playing stuff you like and I
You
don't
can
want to
get
say
as
it's like
creative as you want with it too. Right. Like, I mean, there's DJing, there's like playlist DJing, like wedding DJs or whatever. But then you have like your like scratch turntablists. You have, you know, your controllerists that go and like custom map controllers to do certain things. Your samplers, like, you know, you can, it's a very immersive world, but it's one of those that you can sort of just jump straight into and see how it goes.
yeah,
Like, I mean, it's not, if you want to learn how to sing, that's going to take many years of, you know, fine tuning and practicing and learning.
for
If you want to learn
sure.
how to play guitar, that's same deal.
And the
Piano
great thing about DJing is it's social, you know. And
too.
that's definitely one thing that's very different from my lifestyle now compared to what it was 10 years ago doing events is like what I do now is you know, it's a solitary endeavor for the most part, or I'm working with like one other person or in the room or two other people. So DJing is, you know, we'd be doing events all the time with hundreds of people there. So there was definitely a sense of community with that. There was all the people that I threw the events with that were, you know, a lot of my best friends and, you know, all the people that attended um and I'm still friends with a lot of those people and that's amazing. And but yeah, my life now since I've been more in just producer mode is a little bit more isolated, you know, which sometimes
Yeah.
you have to do it like that. So I don't know.
It's such a
Depends on your
stark
objective and what you
contrast.
want out of life, you know?
Yeah. No, that is a stark contrast because it's like, you know, what you're talking about where you're working on music either for yourself or with other people and, you know, whatever. It's such a small setting compared to like even just before we went on this podcast, I was working on a remix that a buddy of mine, Subsick, and I are doing Skrillex and ISOXO put their collab stems out. You see that?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
It's literally in the SoundCloud description. You go and you see Skrillex's upload of Fuse, and it's a
Hmm.
tiny URL link to the stems.
Nice.
Now there's like 5 stems, and he didn't give you the drums, or you know, he did it in like a classy way where like you know he's like here's everything except the thing that makes the song tick, the drums. You know, go be
Uh-huh.
creative with it, right?
Yeah.
So but yeah, I was working on that right beforehand, and there's maybe like one other two people on my like Discord, and we're just hanging out talking, and it's such a difference compared to nightclub, music festival, hundreds of people, social overload. It's not, one's not better than the other, but I kind of flip flop between which one I want.
Yeah, I think that's probably a lot of the challenge for people too that DJ that want to like become a successful DJ is that if you want to do that and you want to like tour the world and whatever, then you know, you do have to like probably take a step back and spend a lot of time in the studio. That's not that glamorous because you know, people aren't seeing what you're doing whenever you're just cranking away in the studio. You know,
They hear
with
the
your head
final
down.
product one
Yeah,
time, You heard it 1,000 times.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, it's not flashy or glamorous or anything. It's like you're just alone working, thinking.
But that's sometimes one of the cooler parts about, like, I mean, it's like, it's, for me, I treat music production like my, like, alone time. And for that reason, I don't really collab in person that well with people. Because I feel like it's like people talk about how they have their alone time, they get a hobby, they, you know, they do whatever they, you know, for me, that's me like locking in and getting musical with things. Like it's like my wife will come in and see me like looking like a crazy person just at my computer for like hours, and she knows what's going on up here is good.
Sure.
She doesn't need to like intervene or whatever, but it's a very isolated time.
Yeah, I mean, I probably I would get the most work done the most efficiently if I'm by myself, and I feel like most people probably work that way that are producers. Um, but it's not as fun, I guess. You know, it's like you could have somebody over and have like a, you know, it can be a hang too and have fun, but you're probably not going to get as much done as quickly as you would if both people were alone and sending files back and forth or something, you know?
Yeah. I like doing every now and then I'll do a hybrid of that where like me and somebody will get together and we'll hang out, do the fun part of making music where it's collaborative and all of that. But we don't focus on ripping a whole song out. We just focus on getting an idea into the DAW. And then if we can plant a seed, then what we do is we export it. I'll send them the files, you know, I'll have the files or they'll send me the files or whatever, and we'll go our separate ways. And then like that little seedling becomes the tree that is the final song. It's usually we go and do separate solo sessions later.
Yeah. Or the other way where it's like you do everything alone and then you come meet up for the end and do all the final tweaks, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't done that one as much. I don't know. I've just never, but I could see that being just about the same approach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just opposite. But
yeah, so there's a band project I'm in now with my friend Mike, and the way that we do that project in particular is he starts everything. So he writes the songs and the top lines and all that stuff and the melodies, and then I finish it. So
yeah,
you know,
if you're working with somebody in a setting like that, that can be an extremely efficient way of creating songs too. I don't know how recent this was, but recently I came across a tweet from Turney and Sound. You know them? So Turney and Sound is it's a trio of producers and DJs. I don't remember the other two's names, but one used to go by Nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
And he released on like Prime Audio, and I mean then Turney and Sound, they came together and it just like wildfire just exploded.
Mm-hmm.
Deep, Dark, and Dangerous, Wakan, that kind of vibe. One of them, I think Jack from Turney and Sound, was talking about how I might have gotten the names mixed up. I don't know. Anyways, they were talking about how one does a lot of the sound design, the other one does a lot of the songwriting. The other person puts together a lot of the sets. Like, I mean, the three of them work together to create what is Turney and Sound, and I feel like what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, and that stuff is different for every project that you're in. You know, it depends on what type of hat you want to wear for something, or you're also just playing off what other people's strengths and weaknesses are. So
yeah, well, with business, it's like if you're not as good with something, you outsource it.
For sure.
With music production and, you know, songwriting and all that, same deal.
Yeah,
like I can't play the
also
guitar.
Allows you to
totally have someone that plays the guitar record something for me. You know,
right? And then that just allows you to focus on what you do best, and you know, knock that out and build your team that helps you do all the other things so you can focus on the part that you actually want to do.
You know, there's that saying, it's like it takes a village.
Yeah,
I feel like that is behind most, if not all, really great musical projects. I feel like that there is probably a lot of that at play. Like people figure out what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and then they go, you know, supplement for the weaknesses working with other people.
And the parts that you enjoy, because if you enjoy it, then at least you can get good at it. You know,
and
if you don't enjoy
it,
something,
better too.
You'll stop. Yeah, exactly.
So this is a bit that I have enjoyed talking with a lot of the guests on the podcast about, and it's hardships, you know, things that you might not have been prepared for. You Can you think of anything that, was a real challenge that you faced in your career that, you weren't ready for, something that was difficult to overcome?
I think like the main thing, as far as overcoming is just, I wouldn't say it was difficult. It's difficult, but like I had a lot of drive to be successful doing music, so I was able to do it. But like the deep amount of time it takes, I mean, it's really like studying to be a doctor or something to understand all of this stuff intimately. So, it takes thousands of hours. Like there's that book, The Outliers, right? It takes 1,000 hours to become a master at something, and it truly does. So you have to be prepared for that. You know, the beginning of that is very challenging because you have like a vision of what you want, and you have taste and know what's good and know what's bad, but you don't have the ability yet to replicate that or like get your ideas out in a way that's satisfying to you or that fulfills your vision. So there's this long stretch of time that it takes to get to even close to that point to where you feel comfortable releasing stuff that's up to your standards. So that's probably the most challenging part. Is just like if you want to be a really great producer, then it takes a lot of time, and you have to think about it like you're studying for the bar or you're, you know, going to be a doctor or something. It's serious shit.
And then all that time you spend studying, when you finally get to a finish line, there's no finish line. But by the time you reach that non-existent finish line, the next updates have come out. New stuff is happening. Things are evolving, and there's always more to do.
Like now there's AI, coming out now. It's like this whole new set of tools to understand. It's always changing. You always have to stay up to date. That makes it fun. It keeps it fun too.
What's everybody's so all across the board with this? What are your thoughts on AI?
I'm personally having fun with it. I think the majority of people in the creative fields I've talked to don't like it, but to me, it's been a lot of fun. I was playing with Suno. I was going to the gym. I was on the treadmill, and I was just like generating song ideas, and then I'd come back to the studio and try to like produce those ideas like just for fun.
So you use Suno as like an idea generator, and then you take it to sort of kind of ruminate on that and turn it into something with your skill set.
That's what I was doing. I was on because on Sound Better, people hire me to produce stuff, and I've been getting a lot more people hitting me up about, oh, I produced this song on some AI thing, usually Suno, and then so I have the idea, and I need somebody to produce it and like make it an actual song so that I have all the stems and everything, and then I'm going to record the top line on it. So I've done like quite a few of those projects now for people. So yeah, I can just like do that same thing myself too. It's like I can, be on the train or in an airplane or whatever and play around in there and make songs and get ideas going. And then I could just produce those ideas. I don't have to use the AI output. I could like recreate it.
It's good for a scratch board. I mean, I recently I've sort of had I've had varying opinions on Suno because, I've literally had students, plural, bring songs to me that were like, it's a WAV file and it's a full song. And I'm like, and you start kind of deep dive, like asking questions on how it was made. And it's uncovered that it was in Suno. And I'm like, okay, from like a mentor apprentice, I'm your teacher, you're my student standpoint, this is not, no, like, you know what I mean? But then I also had a student that took a splice loop, and this was really creative. It was like a really short 2-bar vocal, and they threw it in Suno. They wrote some lyrics, but then they had ChatGPT sort of improvise on. I don't know if Suno does lyrics now, but like before you could just paste them, but he did it with ChatGPT. Anyway, and pasted them into there, and then created it made a whole instrumental, and then he used a different AI to split the instrumental out and get only the vocal, and then he built a song around the vocal that was originally a splice loop. And I'm like, that was That was an insanely creative use of AI.
Yeah, you're using your ideas and you're manipulating things. I mean, to me, I've been doing this stuff long enough to where I've seen multiple advancements in technology where people complain about it. So, as DJing, I started doing that on vinyl, and then CDJs came out, and everyone was saying if you use CDJs and you weren't a DJ, and if you use the beat sync thing, then you weren't a DJ, and that was a whole thing, and then
Sync argument.
yeah, and then even electronic music in general, you know, you had a drum machine. It's like that wasn't a real drummer playing. I'm sure a lot of people were annoyed that and thought it wasn't real music because a drum machine was playing instead of a drummer. It's you just go through these things all the time. You used to have in the early 1900s, you had player pianos. That was kind of like the first mechanical type of device, but it's like you had those, but somebody still wrote the song. And, I don't know. I think these arguments are just the same things over and over and over again. And so to me, it's just new technology. I think it's in the power of the user, and they have to have the idea, and
That's it.
it
The
empowers
idea
the
has to be good, right?
yeah.
You have to have the idea. The idea's got to be an authentic idea. You're 100% right, I feel like.
Well, and it's like, to me, it's how are you going to say DJing is a craft, but you're not going to say writing something with AI is a craft, because you're in DJing. You're just, if you're not playing your own stuff, you're just curating things that you like and like putting things together and stuff. So it's like, what really is different than talking to AI and saying, I like this stuff, and I like this stuff, and you're curating an idea, So it's
That's actually a really interesting take on that. I hadn't thought about it that way.
like, if you think DJing is an art, then making stuff with AI has to be more of an art, because DJing, you're using other people's ideas and putting those ideas together. So it's like, why not use your own ideas and talk to AI and have your own ideas mashed together and then select the best ones?
Holy shit. I had not thought of it that way before. That's, I was very, I'm not gonna lie, like before this conversation, I'm starting to kind of think about it a little more. It's nice food for thought, but like for the last like week or so, I've been like super like grumpy, like man, people making fun of AI, because I recently had an experience. I was in a feedback stream on Discord, and somebody took, like, you could see the logo. It was a common Chat GPT font, and that's fine. It's whatever. The song upload on SoundCloud was obviously AI. You could see the artifacts and everything, and then the song was, you could tell Suno did it, but they had submitted it in a music production feedback stream. So where we're supposed to be giving specific ideas on how you're mixed down, or your sound design choices, or your structuring are taking place, we started asking them about it, and they were like, oh, I use FL Studio Mobile, or I use BandLab, or whatever. And we're like, okay, great. There's no way you can make some of these sounds. And so they were essentially lying to us, and that made me start to get really grumpy about AI. But this approach, the comparison with DJing, that's a better way to look at it, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, my perspective on this stuff, like, I've been thinking about it for a long time. So, I was saying the first keyboard I bought was a Kurzweil keyboard. That was in the 90s. And I don't know if you're familiar with Kurzweil, but Ray Kurzweil, he's an inventor. He like made the flatbed scanner. He
I mean, the
made
flatbed
Kurzweil.
scan.
Yeah, he did all kinds of stuff. He made all kinds of predictions about AI. He worked at Google, like heading their AI stuff. So I read a lot of his books, like, 15 years ago now. So I've like thought about this stuff for a long time and how it's going to impact everybody. And it's kind of interesting to see it come to fruition now.
Would you say
He has
it's
a thing
likely to?
called Moore's law. I don't know if you've heard of that, but that's kind of like when it predicts the singularity, where computers can think faster than, or computers will be like, the computational power of the AI will be more than like all of humans combined. It's like in the 2040s, and
2040s, I think.
yeah, and we've been tracking that. He like laid this out like in 90s, or like a long time ago, and like we've pretty much been tracking that.
Is it tracking right now? Is it still on track?
It has been since because it has to do with processing power doubling like roughly every 18 months, or like every 12 to 24 months. So it's like you can just you can track that out from like the 50s whenever transistors were created to like whenever you started doing it through like the 80s and 90s, and you can make those projections. If it keeps doubling at every 18 months, then you eventually get to a point to where it's as smart as a human, and it's like as smart as all humans together kind of thing. And then it goes so fast that you can't there's no way to know because it starts self-replicating and all that. But
That's
yeah, so I've
crazy.
been thinking about all that stuff for a long time. You can't it doesn't really matter what everyone's opinion on is of it, because
It's
you
kind of an inevitability, though. No, it doesn't.
exactly, that's what I'm
Opinions don't
saying.
matter because
It's
it's
like
going to happen.
exactly. So it's you just have to figure out a way to where you can operate within that system, because that's just the way the world is going to be. It's things move on, things change and progress.
Yeah. Well, I remember back in high school, this is one of the memories that like stuck with me like hardcore from high school, where a computer science teacher showed us this video where it was a visual illustration of the first computer going all the way up to the processing power of tech at that time, which was like 2010. And like it was so, by the time you got to the end of the video, the scale, it's like the size of the universe versus like a pebble on the ground, you know? One of those comparisons. And that got me thinking from an early age, like, what happens? Like what happens when all this tech starts to become more efficient than we are?
Yeah, and you can anecdotally understand this stuff, right? It's like you can think back and be like, ChatGPT, I don't know, even remember when that started. It was like not that long ago. It's like you can tell now that everything does double every 18 months. It's like Suno is twice as good every 18 months, so you extrapolate that a few more doublings, and this stuff's going to be like insanely good, and it'll be integrated into Ableton and all of this stuff. Just like, they just integrated Splice in Ableton. It's like
And stem
all
split
these,
with AI.
exactly. So all these things are going to be integrated into the DAWs. Um, and yeah, really, you're just trying to reduce friction between, the manifestation of like your ideas and what's in your mind that comes out through your hands into manipulating the world around you into like whatever you desire, right? So it's like AI is just reducing that friction of like what's in your brain to creating the world around you.
Yeah, that's a really cool way to look at it. And I actually, for me, like reducing friction, like, I mean, a couple of years ago, I was starting to get really overworked. I kind of bit off more than I could chew. And I
Hmm.
was like seriously looking into, um, the efficiency increase of like payrolling an assistant to help me with some things. I was decided to go the frugal route. And I was like, what, we're going to tough it out. But then I started using ChatGPT, which at that point was dumb compared to what it is now. Back then, ChatGPT compared to now, like I
Yeah.
can pull ChatGPT up like while I'm putzing around this studio, and I can have a full conversation like, "Hey, ChatGPT, what do you think about this idea?" Da da da. Put a pin in that. Da 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 da. I can actually brainstorm with it, and then at the very end of it, I can have it export a PDF recap with cliff notes of
Hmm.
everything, and then I save those PDFs, and then I look through them, and I study them, and I read them, and I think about it, and it's like I literally have a brainstorming assistant right here that
Yeah.
not
Exactly.
only does everything in a text format for me, but it's actually got a pretty scary, real sounding voice. Like I showed my grandmother wow, that's crazy. Right as I said, I showed my grandmother. My grandmother just texted me. Anyway,
Wow.
that is weird. But anyway, I showed her this voice app and absolutely mind blown. She was like, "Are you sure there's not like just a human being talking to me
All
right now?"
right. Yeah.
Um because like other than like a few little minor slip ups, I mean even the voice replication has gotten so good. And if you have like a ChatGPT account for several years, it will learn you. Like,
On these the Suno stuff people send me to like produce, I was telling you about. Uh, like you can really not tell it's AI. Like I'll show it to people and ask them if they think it is or not. And like people can't tell. I also just saw a study the other day I don't know how the validity of this, but it said like 97% of people can't tell the difference between AI music and real music. So
That's crazy to me. And I actually had a moment like that. Okay, this is a wild example, forewarning, but there was a song and it sounded like old, like 60s, 70s recording maybe. And it was a song about a guy. It was a kind of an upbeat song about how he glued his balls to his butthole, and it sounded for real. And like the artwork, it's on Spotify. It's literally, if you look up "I glued my balls to my butthole," it's on there. And there's, and that like whatever entity is like almost called a label. I don't know if that's a proper term, but
yeah.
you know, the entity that puts out all these songs does a bunch of them. Like they have another one called "I Want to Beat Herbert Hoover's Ass," and there's like another one like "Shitting in the Shower." Like there's like all these like crazy inappropriate songs, right? But they
Yeah.
sound 100% real,
Right.
and they
It's
sound
pretty
like they're
crazy.
from that era. And the content strategy that they're using for this is hilarious because it's like they get regular people or influencers or whatever being like, I can't believe this song came out on vinyl a bunch of years ago and no one knew about it. Like,
Oh my God.
they're acting
That's
like they
crazy.
found like a deep cut from like a record store or something.
That's
And
pretty
it's
funny.
so
Yeah. I mean, that's kind
AI
of the
for
thing about
funny
this
is kind
stuff.
of cool.
Yeah. I mean, we're like, technology makes things more abundant. So it's like you're living in this era of abundance where it's like you have more, there's going to be more crap, but there's just like, you have more everything because everybody has the ability to express themselves more, which,
Have to sift through and find more diamonds.
yeah,
That's
but
it's
there's
cool.
more. Yep.
Was this something like Suno was pumping like 7 million songs out a day?
That's insane.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't even like, I don't know. Brain stops functioning when I try to think about that. 7 million
Yeah.
a day.
I
And I
mean, I
found that
think
out 7 days ago.
before all the AI stuff started, there was like 100,000 songs uploaded a day to Spotify. It's a lot of music.
140
So
it caught up to.
140.
140,000. Yep.
Yeah. So it's interesting because it's like, yeah, I do a lot of production and mixing and mastering and stuff. And it's like, that is a big market. It's like 100,000 songs a day. It's like, there's a lot of people that need services and.
I will say one of the things that was it was kind of a humbling moment for me as like a mixing and mastering engineer, is when I got a song from a client that was, it was tricky for me. I couldn't quite get it sounding right. A couple of passes, we were on like the third pass. And I usually try to, I don't know, it's different every project, but I was getting really frustrated. And I load up Ozone's AI mastering assistant just to see, right? Because I'm like, at this point, if I'm using an AI tool to master, it's not really ethical if they're hiring me to mix and master their song, but I'm stumped. Let's just see what happens. I wound up sending him the song and giving his deposit back because I was like, dude, like he's a longtime client of mine, but I'm like, dude, I can't claim this. It did a better job. It
Mm.
it it showed me up.
Just
And
from
I
like
was
the
like,
balance. Sometimes the EQ, it can be helpful, I think.
the tonal
Seeing like,
balance,
yeah,
it puts together the chain in an order that
right.
I hadn't thought of. And
Yeah.
it also, yeah, just the order of which it used. There was a master rebalance tool on Ozone that it used in a really good way. It picked some nodes out, the dynamic EQ nodes that I hadn't thought of, and it just found some things that I was just like, it did a better job, and I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I mean,
I just got Ozone 12. I haven't actually really, for whatever reason, haven't dug into the AI tools on. There's just so much stuff to sift through
yeah,
software wise, but I just haven't done
so
that yet. But
so much.
I
I
need to.
think also the AI tools that are being introduced into like plugins, that's going to be kind of cool because like I feel like maybe like I hope that we steer more towards the like there's more tools that use AI that are available versus the just people. I don't know. I feel like that's going to be more interesting to see over the next like 5 years.
Yeah, it's a interesting time right now because I feel like the AI stuff is very separate from all of the other audio industry. It's like these things are kind of doing their own thing, like over here, and they're not really integrated into anything else. Like I was saying, they're not like part of Ableton yet, or it's different manufacturers, it's different mindset, it's a different, it's probably different VC money behind it. It's just like a whole different industry.
Yeah,
But
that's
those
kind of
things will start to integrate at some point.
yeah. Well, we'll see. Watch tomorrow. Ableton's going to be like introducing Ableton 12.4
Right.
now with AI.
Yeah.
No, but I feel like Ableton 13 probably. If I was a betting man, I would put some chips down on the table for Ableton 13
Yeah.
having some AI function.
Yeah.
So, um, okay. So as far as whenever you're like working with artists or people that you teach, do you do more? So you do more producing with artists than teaching, or what's the balance with that?
Um, yeah, so I think like the thing I do mostly at the moment is mixing and mastering, and I do a lot of that because a lot of what I do is remote. Um, and that's kind of the easiest thing to do remotely, I think. But if I'm producing stuff, I mean, I do a lot of production remotely as well, but um, that stuff's kind of good to like know the artist and be in the room a little bit more. Um, So yeah, I do a lot of mixing and mastering remotely, and some production as well, some production here in person, and then yeah, I'll do lessons, and then a lot of times with the lesson, I think the most fun way to learn is just like remixing something you like, or trying to produce something in the style of something that you like, So
Remixing or
yeah,
flipping?
exactly.
Yeah.
So if I'm like just personally my style, if people come to me to like learn Ableton or something, then we're usually still producing something anyway and just like learning along the way rather than just going down the list of, you know, this is what a flanger is and this is what,
Yeah. Less classroom
multiband compression
style,
is.
more
Yeah,
tactile in the
s-
moment.
exactly. Just make it fun. And then usually you have like some sort of product at the end of that that like maybe you can do something with. It's like you can go play a remix in your DJ set after that day or something, So it's like you can kind of leave with something
I love that
that's useful.
because the schools and stuff, I feel like the textbook classroom approach for music production, it's not only antiquated, but it's also I don't think it works for people because with music, this person probably doesn't want to produce or make the same thing as this person, and
For
it's
sure.
so
Yeah,
realized that
for
I think
sure.
you have to have that approach. Like I come up with like lesson plans or like topic lists individually for each of my students. And I try to just kind of check them off like the topics in the background. Like I'll just highlight them green when we're done. But I try to keep it as a free flowing conversation because I do, similar to what I think you're talking about, where we actually get in there and start making the music. I feel like that's so much more productive.
Yeah, this is just fun, I guess. And if you keep things fun, then it's not a chore. I guess that's my philosophy on learning.
Well, also, if you read a textbook for a school and you do their packet for their homework assignment, you turn it into the teacher. Cool, that's done. If you're working in the style you're talking about and learning in that kind of setting, you could actually start putting together like a tangible like portfolio of music that you could. It's something of substance for yourself as like you can take that somewhere in the world versus the teacher's desk.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. That's the objective.
Any specific like successes with students or with artists that you've worked with that you want to highlight?
Yeah, so I've got something I'm working on currently. I'll show you a couple things.
Organization is
So
like
yeah, I've got a few
goals.
vinyls over here, but this is the first one of this group I've been working with, Bunny X, and then we've got another one over there, the second album, and then we're working on the third right now. They were just over here yesterday. Um, but actually, that was somebody that actually did come to me to learn Ableton, and then we just started working on stuff, um, and then ended up producing a few albums actually.
Nice. There you go.
They've been doing really well. Um, so it's like synthwave project, and there's two vocalists in it, two girls,
Funny X, I
and
was gonna say, why does that like I don't it's vague, but I think I may have seen or heard that name somewhere.
oh yeah, yeah, it's synthwave stuff. They're on a label called Aztec. Yeah, so we've been meeting up like every Sunday for a few months now, working on a third album. They'll be over next Sunday, and then we'll take a break for the holidays. But I think it's like, I think like mostly all the vocals will be recorded by next session. Um, but yeah, that's something that kind of like, we met up a few times, like just showing her how to use the program, and then it kind of evolved into like a production type of thing.
You take somebody who like really does have that seriousness, like you were talking about earlier, the willingness to put that time in, and I could see how that would. So it seems like it came together. You guys have a lot of music done, you know.
Yeah, probably worked on like, I don't know. I mean, after this album will be like 30 tracks, I guess, be quite a bit. Yeah, over like, I guess we met in like 2020 during the pandemic, something like that. So yeah, pretty
Sick.
consistent output. And then that's the thing, also kind of like we were talking about earlier, where it's just like, you also just have to focus on what you actually want to do and where you want to spend your energy, and finding people around you that can help fill the void of the other parts. So it's for that particular case, they are better songwriters and wanted to spend time doing that, and that's the fun part for them. And thinking of like the creative, aspects. Like all the albums are kind of like a concept album, so they like kind of write these stories to go along with the albums, and I help with the production because that's something that I do, and they don't have to worry about it. So
The puzzle pieces fit, then it works.
exactly,
Sweet.
exactly.
Sweet. What's the what you say is like the if you had to kind of brag about yourself real quick, what's like the coolest, I feel like I don't know, what's the coolest thing you've achieved in your career?
One interesting highlight this last year was I got to play on stage with Sting, so that was kind of fun.
What?
Yeah, so I was DJing, and Sting came out for a song.
That's pretty sick. What was that
Yeah,
like?
pretty cool. His manager had asked me to be a part of a show that one of his artists were doing, and so he also manages Sting, and so yeah, Sting came out for like a duet. But so yeah, I can technically say I was shared the stage with Sting twice at like a small show here in New York City, and then at a festival in Philadelphia. So
That's crazy, man. Kudos to you. That's cool.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
really cool.
it's a fun little highlight.
And what are some and this is something that I've had an interesting time. We've already had out of the on that brief for the podcast, there's the six options, the six like or not options but topics. And on this one we've had the most cutouts and edits so far. It's been an interesting one. But what's wild times? I've been asking everybody like what's a crazy industry story that you're allowed to tell that, was unforgettable or some hilarious, crazy experience. Do you have one for us?
You were talking about earlier. I was almost going to bring this up, but like you were talking about like anybody can DJ, or not anybody can DJ, but it's like a good way to like get into doing something. I got held up at customs in Canada a long time ago. Whenever I was playing there, and they wouldn't let me in because like I was playing this big show there. It was like 1,000 people, and this was in Calgary. This was in like 2015, I think, and they were just being asses at the customs, and I guess like they stopped the guy in front of me that was like going to go teach karate or something and didn't have some paperwork, so they were already like pissed off at him, and then I get up there, and I guess the promoters like didn't fill out some form properly or whatever, so they said I could enter the country but I couldn't perform. So I got to go to the venue, and I got to go to the show. I was like in the DJ booth, but I couldn't play,
So you
which
were
was
like,
annoying.
that's
So that
wild.
happened. Yeah, but then the other funny part of that story is, so I just played Canada again in the band that I'm playing now, Heavy Halo. We played in Montreal over the summer. So we were touring and driving through, and I got stopped again. I like had to go get out of the car and go talk to them and everything. But the funny thing was like what the dude at the customs told me, because I was like, why did this happen at the last time? And he was like, well, it's because DJing is a skill that like anybody could do. It's like not. He's like you can get into this one because you're playing synths, And because you're playing piano, that's like a specialized skill set. But the last time you had to have the letter because you were DJing, and anybody can DJ. So you had to have the letter from the venue to say that you specifically had the talent to come. It was just like,
So to further illustrate the point,
yeah,
that's
like,
wild.
Yeah.
Wild. You're not the first guest I've had on here that's had a tricky time with Canada Customs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've had friends have issues with like bringing merch over and stuff. Or they'll give them a hard time.
Well, because they consider it smuggling contraband if you don't declare.
Yeah.
If you accidentally don't declare something, that is treated the same way as smuggling.
So definitely anybody that's out there listening to this, if you get to a point where you're touring, you got to make sure the promoters, if you're going to other countries, make sure the promoters get all the paperwork done and everything, because that can be a mess a lot of times where it's, people don't get through for whatever reason, and it's a bad time. So don't do that.
Yeah, that's a valid tip. We're gonna clip that, make it short form. Well, thanks, man. This has been really cool. I am glad that I finally got to pick your brain on things because our mutual Chris has told me a lot about what you've done and sort of where you come from with music and all that. So it's been really cool to sit down and chat with you. Anybody who is watching this podcast, you can book with Gosteffects on Ascendry.app. And do you have the free consult on?
I should, yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's been a few days. It's so you can book with Gosteffects on there. He's one of our mentors who is offering the free consultation discovery call, 30 minutes. You guys can get a face-to-face, see what you guys can do, where you want to go from there. And I feel like learning from somebody like Gosteffects is something that's going to change how you do things. So go check them out.
Yeah, hit me up on there. Thanks.
Take care.